Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space. Hope you enjoy. Story number 1, Supremely Average, written by Scooby Wagon. Robber was sitting in an astrogator seat on the bridge of the SLV Solduck, so named because in galactic standard it sounded an awful lot like some kind of weird sex act, and the captain thought it was hilarious. Robber always got a kick out of this during docking because, from the perspective of traffic controllers, she might as well be announcing the arrival of the SSS Cleveland steamer. She'd finished verifying course, speed, and known interstellar anomalies along the course, and was setting in for a long haul for a night shift. Comfy seat, check. Caffeinated beverage, check. Doom running on nav console, duh. The comm panel lit up and buzzed, dragging Robber's attention away from Dune. It was Gothok, the night shift engineer. Robber grabbed her beverage, took a sip, and used the bottom of the cup to press the acknowledge button. "Hey, Robber, you're all set." Yep, all set here. Any weird maintenance going on tonight that I need to be aware of?" "Classy, Robber, real classy. No weird maintenance tonight, just your regular kind. If you're all settled in, can I come up there?" "Sure, come on up." Regular maintenance meant lots of automation, but Gothok could monitor from pretty much anywhere on the ship, so he usually chose to do so on the bridge so he could talk to Robber. Robber, for her part, tended to enjoy these conversations simply because they gave her some insight into other cultures, usually just Gothok's own Korolic culture, but sometimes others as well. A few minutes later, the hatch chimed as it opened, and Gothok entered the bridge. Robber closed Doom, but Gothok had already spotted it. "You know the Captain Reynolds would probably toss you out the airlock if he sees you playing that, right?" Gothok pointed out. "Psst, whatever. What's life without a little risk once in a while?" Robber responded. She smiled to herself since it had been the captain's idea in the first place, and he currently held the highest score. Gothok plopped himself down in another seat and pulled up the engineering controls on the display. "Sometimes your disregard your own safety is, concerning," he said as the display loaded. "Ah, you really care. Maybe I'll naffle you a little later, after all." She laughed at her own private joke as the fur on the back of Gothok's head stood on end. It was a species display of embarrassment. She'd never bothered to show Gothok the Coneheads movie or explain to him the reference to his name with Naffle the Gothoks. Gothoks didn't know that Naffle meant, but he was pretty sure that it was neither lewd or vile, or both. This was not his first trip on a human vessel. Gothok shook his head to get the fur back into place and continued. "Anyway, have you ever noticed how, well, average our people are?" Robber just stared incredulously at Gothok for a moment. "Gothok, I have no idea what you're talking about here. I've known you for a while, and I'm sure you didn't mean that to sound so insulting. So why don't you start at the beginning and tell me just what the feck you're talking about?" "Well, think about it for a moment. Humans are, what was the word? Johns of all works." "I'm pretty sure you mean jack of all trades," Robber laughed. "Go on. Right, jack of all trades. Anyway, you humans are literally that. Humans do pretty much everything, dude. You're talking about an entire species, 14 trillion individuals. Obviously, we're in all trades and whatnot. No species specializes like that." "I know that," Gothok retorted. "But think about it this way. Let's assume the ship is yours. You need to put together the best crew you can get. So let's start with the front and work our way to the back of the ship. You need an astrogator. Who do you hire? Let's be generous and say that money does not matter." Robber thought about it for a second. "Oh, well, in that case, I'd absolutely be Belgrand of the Mystic Queen." "Exactly," said Gothok. "You'd get Belgrand. You'd get a chick." "Hold on now. I'm not after any chick. I want Belgrand," Robber objected. "Fair enough, but look at the list of the most highly rated astrogators in Confed. The first 3 pages are all Kacheks. After that, you start seeing other species show up, including humans. But we're talking about a species that has lived in interstellar nomadic lifestyle for 300,000 of your years. Obviously, not every Kachek is an astrogator, let alone a good one. But if you want the best astrogator you can get, odds are you'll be looking at a Gajek. Robber considered this for a moment, then said, Okay, go on. Okay, what about cargo handlers? Well, that's kind of an unskilled labor thing, so pretty much anyone can do that. True enough, but what traits make an excellent cargo handler? Robber thought about this for a very long moment before responding. Well, they need to be reasonably strong. I mean, the lifters do all the really heavy stuff, but some cargo still gets handled manually. They'd need to be able to operate all the equipment correctly and safely. They need to be able to both work long hours and tolerate long periods of soul-crushing boredom. Gothok smiled slightly. Well, doesn't that just sound like the short description of the Shalit? They are a species that, for all intents and purposes, are living rocks. By any other species standard, their physical strength is essentially without limits, and they don't just get tired ever. So they can work extremely hard for as long as necessary. Then, when the loading is done, they're the happiest being on their own and pretending to be actual rocks. Robert nodded her agreement. Okay, you got me there. But I'd like to point out that they're also really hard on deck plates. Cute. But the fact that every ship everywhere in Confed looks for Chalets to do cargo handling, it's certainly not that they can't do other things on a ship. It's just that they tend to be a really excellent fit for cargo handlers. Clearly, they're a spacefaring species, so obviously they have actual rocket scientists and such. Gothok, you know you're sounding kind of racist right now, right? What? No. Look at it this way, and, by the way, I found this on your recreational database. So if it's a racist, that's on you. If we express key traits numerically, we can use a 20-point scale for granularity. Actually, I don't know why it's a 20-point scale, but that was what was in the database. But if we go with that, then the average human intelligence would be something like a 10 or 11. Same with strength and wisdom. Though I've met enough humans to make my question that one. Dexterity, etc. No other species in Confed does that. They tend to rank very high in one or two areas and very low in the rest. But humans are middle of the street at best. On the other hand, there are middle of the street at worst. Road. You mean middle of the road? Robber replied. Yes, that, anyway. If you think it through, you humans are incredibly average. Not only that, but you've known it for centuries. Your own recreational database notes that humans tend to be sort of average, even going back 3,000 years. Robert was baffled. What? 3,000 years? How do you work that out? Well, Gothok said, the first found this numerical system in something called ADDV302. When I looked at previous versions, it goes all the way back to version 1 from almost 3,000 of your years ago. 1978 AD, to be specific. Jesus, Gothok, did you sit down and read the Dungeons & Dragons source book? Yes? What? Robert shook her head. Oh, nothing really. It just dawned on me that in 3,000 years, WOTC still exists and, also hasn't managed to update the D20 system. End of story. Story number 2. From a Place You'll Never See. Written by Teller of Tall Tales. Humans, pitiful. Dax snarled at the life form before me at the execution stand. The human remained silent. The rows of Manalek's infantry gazed in reverence at the God King as he personally insulted the human. Nothing to say, human, the God King gloated. The human slowly looked up at the crowd, then off to the distance of the mountain world. Just one thing. The human's voice creaked like death itself as it began. From a place you shall not see, shall come a sound you shall not hear. The human lowered his head. The God King laughed, and with one of his many strong arms, punched the human across the stage. A redundant statement, human. The God King's voice shook the mountains as the human laughed. The human offered no further explanation. The God King sneered and got real close to the human's ear, hissing something. The human's bloody lips curled into a smile. He then headbutted the God King, who straightened immediately and reeled back. the God King stood tall to strike. Then a deep orange blood of brain matter splattered across the stage as the dead God King fell over, his soldiers stunned by the sudden silent death. Then, seconds later, over the mountains, a boom reached their ears, and they began to collapse in fear. I smiled and slowly released the trigger as I unhooked an earbud, putting my Remington XQ-7000, an old era rifle, but reliable. Looking through my scope, I saw Chris stagger to his feet and pull his buns off, shooting me a thumbs up as he stumbled for the God King's shuttlecraft. End of story. I would quickly like to thank the Tier 5 members, Marky, Cam Maxwell, Caspar Arnolds, Oakfield, Lord Azrakul, and it's difficult to pronounce. Thank you very much.